Okay, we need to have a discussion. If you were unaware, recently there has been some drama in the paramotor community based on a video I had taken part in. Tucker released a video a couple days ago recapping what happened in Jersey Shore, Pennsylvania on his second or third trip or whatever up there while we were doing travel classes there. In the beginning of that video, I flew a motor for a student called the SkyTap Angel Frame. This is a product created by Andy Fuller, who runs the Skylab SIV down in Florida. If you are looking to go take an SIV in the US on the East Coast, he is your guy. So here's the real quick summary. Basically, the video painted the paramotor in not a good light. I had a very poor experience flying it simply because the paramotor was set up incorrectly, and that is 100% my fault for flying a paramotor that was set up incorrectly, and in no way Andy Fuller's fault or a fault of the product as a whole. The student had completed about 15 flights on our equipment. I think they were flying a Fly Products Rider or something. And they had purchased a SkyTap Angel new and wanted to transition to this paramotor in training under supervision of us. Now, full disclosure, I've never flown a SkyTap Angel and don't know much about them other than it's a paramotor with an engine and you start it from the side. And so with that, what I wanted to do was go up and fly the paramotor for my student beforehand with their permission to make sure there was nothing weird or anything unusual that I had to make them aware about. We hang tested the motor beforehand to make sure that the actual hang point was going to be correct, which it was, and once I was in the seat it was totally fine in the air, and we tried to get the harness as high as possible. This is where it gets tricky. The straps on the top of the harness were on the incorrect bar. They were supposed to be on the lower one, and I was unaware of this, and it's really hard for me to be aware of this. This is how the paramotor was presented to me, and that's something really easy to overlook and not know that that is something that needs to be fixed on this paramotor. So what we did, and you can see it in the video, is we tried to pull the shoulder straps up as high as possible, and I just couldn't get it high enough for it to be super comfortable. Now, I've been told in the past that these type of paramotors do sit lower on your back than most of the things I'm used to, so I just thought that this was how it should be flown. So we pre-flighted it and make sure nothing was going to actually fall off, and I attempted a few launches. Now, the first launch I set up downwind for, okay? That's not me trying to look bad. I set up downwind by accident, wind switch, and I was like, I'm just going to go for it. And I couldn't run, and I couldn't get the wing up. The other thing people have been commenting on seeing, oh, why did you blow the wing? Well, the motor was sitting so low on my back with the weight of the motor so far away that I couldn't lean forward at all to do a run up. So I ended up blowing my wing by accident. Completely my fault once again. After that, I set up into the wind, blew another launch, and then finally got it up in the air. Now, taking off wasn't awful. Getting in the seat was really challenging, I think because the harness was so elongated. I could not get into the seat, but once I finally got in, it was actually really good. I didn't really have a problem with the comfort at all. It was quite comfortable. I like that the hang points are separated a good bit. It adds a little bit of protection against torque twist, and the weight shift was surprisingly really, really good. Better than what I would have expected from a motor without swing arms, and it was the most soft and responsive weight shift I've ever felt. Like, you just moved your body a little bit and it was a huge result. Anyway, getting out of the seat to land was a different story. I got out of the seats and realized immediately that number one, the motor would be slamming me in the back of the calves, and number two, that the straps were not adjusted comfortably in the regions. So I landed and the motor slammed immediately right into the back of my calves while I was trying to run, and it really, really hurt. And I think that's just because that the motor was adjusted improperly again. So this was my experience flying the paramotor. It was not the best thing I've ever flown, and I understand now that that was because I set the motor up incorrectly, and I assume complete responsibility for that. Now, a video was made documenting this process. This was basically just a bunch of guys in the field having fun, trying to fly something different, and I didn't have a good experience. I understand now that that was not how it became portrayed to the greater paramotor community. didn't look good. And in my opinion, it didn't look good. It shined a negative light on Andy Fuller, and in no way did I intend to do that, Andy. So to try to resolve this and mitigate damage, Tucker has removed the section of the video that contained the footage of me flying the paramotor. So it is no longer public and it is no longer doing damage to Andy Fuller. Additionally, I have spoke with Andy directly and have agreed to do an actual review of the SkyTap Angel under supervision with somebody who understands the frame intimately and making sure that it is set up appropriately and correctly. Once I do that, I can form an honest opinion flying the paramotor correctly as it was intended from the manufacturer, and I hope that my experience doing that is a lot more positive one. So there's a few takeaways from this event. Number one, you need to be careful what you say because it can unintentionally harm or tarnish the reputation of others. And I seriously apologize if this has caused any damage to Andy or the SkyTap Angel names. I did not mean in any way to do that. Furthermore, the paramotor community as a whole is one of the best in terms of sports. We are super supportive and overall very welcoming, especially to new members. The more frustrating thing is when somebody with some notoriety doesn't like a product, the entire community attacks them. And I understand why we were attacked for this one, but in the past it's been the same. People have the right to have an opinion about something, and if they don't like it, it doesn't mean that they're trying to absolutely destroy or decimate the reputation of that product. It's just that personally they didn't like it. And for a lot of people to jump straight from they didn't like this to, you are sabotaging this was completely rigged and set up is complete slander. Like, we weren't out doing that, and for people to assume that and say that this is a sponsored video. Tucker isn't sponsored by anyone, and he said this in videos before. He bought all his gear outright, and I own all my gear outright. So just because we were together with the Aviator group of people does not mean that they were involved in this in any way, and I just want to completely remove them from this picture, okay? With all of this, I'm sorry that this happened. I'm sorry that I partook in a video that portrayed Andy Fuller and SkyTap Angel as a whole in a negative light, and I'm really glad that it's been removed and we can move on for this and not have to worry about doing any further damage to Andy or his brand. I hope you understand that this was a mistake and I don't want any more hard feelings. So let's move on. I hope you guys have a really good day and I'll see you in the next one.